Let's see if I can find it quickly.
Okay.
Um,
Oh my God, my leg hurts. Bad.
but he was basically explaining. Um,
What did you? Okay, sorry to digress, but I was
what?
gonna ask. I was wondering like how your dad would react to that because I know that your dad was into politics. I'm pretty sure this that night he might have stayed up late, or he didn't. He went to bed.
He he did stay up late. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I don't know if I was recording on my phone. God
Audio?
dang it. Yeah, I
Uh,
wasn't. But anyways, we were talking about the election. Um,
recap.
we were just recapping the election. We were
Yeah,
we were surprised that Trump won. Somewhat
yeah.
surprised. I kind of knew he was gonna win. I felt like
I, I thought he was gonna be challenged because if you look at the debate,
he
uh,
lost the debate, in my opinion.
yeah, he lost the debate, and the exit polls and the polls indicated that it was going to be a close call.
Yeah.
If you look at the polls, so considering that, yes, it was surprising to me. At least.
Let me share this real quick.
Uh,
Um, okay. You see this?
yes.
Okay.
Play the audio. I can't hear the audio. You need to share sound.
How do you share the sound?
So there's a button, like if you click on more, or I think wherever you shared the screen. So let me.
Do I share, should I share entire screen?
Yeah, but then there's an
Oh,
option that
share
says
sound.
share sound.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay. Let's see. Let's see if he talks about it in this one. It's a minute.
Everybody got in line. And when you take it back to when pharmaceutical drug companies were able to advertise on media in the 1990s, that
This is it,
changed
Yeah.
everything. We're one of two countries in the whole world that
I
allows this.
think.
Yeah.
And because of that, because we don't
Mm,
have socialized medicine, it's a complete profit scam.
Hmm.
And they went hard, claiming all sorts of things that were never researched, all sorts of things that are not supported by data, like the fact that it would stop transmission, the fact that it would
Right.
stop
Mm,
infection, the fact that it was safe for pregnant women, the
mm.
fact that it was safe for children. All of it's bullshit.
Yes.
And they pushed it on the whole world. And if you didn't say that at a
Yes.
cocktail party, you were a pariah
Yes.
and you were an
It was
anti-vaxxer.
totally psycho.
It was like being a Holocaust denier.
Generally pro-vaccine overall. I think we should look at these things. But I believe in the scientific method.
Yes.
So you never blanket accept anything. You never blanket accept that any given medication or any given treatment is 100% good. You should always view it with some skepticism.
Especially
So
when you're getting the data from pharmaceutical drug companies that have like a long history of
maybe they've
criminal
got a vested interest.
conduct.
Yes,
Yeah.
they've got a vested interest in the research. It's sort of like asking tobacco companies about, whether smoking
Right.
is dangerous.
It's exactly the same
I'm
thing.
like, oh, according to our scientists, everything's fine.
Yeah, they lied in
okay.
I like the way he laughs.
I know it's so funny.
What if
Did
recording high
you
quality
couldn't hear the
content?
audio from that on the recording, but that was just Joe Rogan and Elon Musk talking about the pharmaceutical companies. But the point that I was trying to make, was not on the video, was that you watch TV sometimes, right? And you see the
Yeah,
pharmaceutical ads, right?
yeah.
And like the ads, they're like, warning, side
Excuse me.
effects, like you might kill your family, get
Yeah,
hives, have suicidal thoughts,
yeah, yeah,
diarrhea.
yeah.
Just all the side effects are just insane. And it's like for drugs that you're like, who would ever want this? Like just random things, like random drugs. And you know that the reason that they're putting these ads up is not because they're trying to sell that particular pharmaceutical drug. They're not trying to
Uh-huh.
sell because first of all, the pharmaceutical companies, their main target, who they sell to is doctors, right? So they're trying to sell to
Yeah.
doctors and have them prescribe to people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not selling to like people on the couch aren't just going to see this drug ad and go, "Oh, I want to get that." But what it
Yeah.
does is so the pharmaceutical companies pay billions to run these ads, like billions a year,
Yeah.
like $15 billion a year. And so what
Yeah.
this does is they pay the media companies billions, they run these ads, but in exchange, the media companies will not report anything bad about the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
That is what I think is the real reason that they're running the ads. It's not to
Where
sell.
when you say an exchange though, well, the exchange is that they're showing the ads for them. They're not just paying it. So there's
No, well,
already like
the exchange is okay. I'm the media companies. I'm all the media. I'm getting
yeah.
$15 billion for,
Okay.
in air quotes, ads. And then what
Okay.
you get is we won't write a story on the corruption of your industry and what you're doing. We won't
But we'll
expose the
also advertise your
things.
product.
Yes, but the advertising is just what's up because you can't literally pay media companies to not run stories on you. There has to be
Yeah.
something in exchange on the surface level so it's legal.
I see what you mean. Yeah, so it's like a cover story.
Pretty much because the ads really have no impact on
Yeah.
actual sales. Like they're just this is
Really?
like
Interesting.
think about
I
it.
did not know that.
Think about it. Like how you hear about all these all like corruptions, scandals, things related to pharmaceutical companies, but you'd never hear it from media, like mainstream media. You hear it from podcasts, the internet. That's where these stories come out. You never see the mainstream media supporting or pushing a story that's against big pharma. They don't do that. And
Yeah.
it's because of this exchange they have. Without the revenue from big pharma, like these companies would fail, these media companies, especially since how much news is coming just straight from the internet, like X, etc.
Yeah.
That they're not like that is what is that's one of the things that supports these companies, like and keeps them afloat. So like they're basically a tool that big corporations are using to keep doing what they're doing, their wrongdoing. The
Yeah.
healthcare system in America, is backwards. It's twisted. And I was actually talking to a dude from China who I work with, and he was telling me about the
Is he like
healthcare.
is he a Chinese citizen?
I don't know. That's a good question. He he might be. He speaks English well. He's been in the U.S. for a long time, but
Okay.
he definitely grew up in China. But he was telling me the one thing about America that is just baffling is the healthcare system. Like they developed a drug that helps treat cancer, I think in South Korea or Japan or something. And
Yeah.
you can get this drug there for like an affordable price, like less than $200 a month, something that someone can buy. But the same drug in the US is like $10,000. And then like
Wow.
just basic medical care costs so much in the US. An ambulance
Yeah.
is like $10,000. Like my dad
Yeah.
got back surgery and he has insurance, but the
You
back
told me
surgery,
it was spent around 100K.
a
More than
hundred
100K.
thousand dollars. So think about any person who doesn't have, doesn't have insurance, doesn't work for a company that gives them insurance. They don't make any
Yeah.
money. The
Yeah.
number one cause of bankruptcy in America is medical expenses. Did you know
Yes.
that? And
Yes.
it's twisted. And then so
Look at
like
yeah. Yeah.
what were you
Sorry, go
gonna
ahead.
say?
No, no,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead. It's not.
and then this is just one thing that I think a lot of Americans they're starting to see past the facade of like the current state of the Democratic Party and mainstream media, and they don't want this. They don't want it. They like I feel like this election is like a very pivotal and historic election in the state of American culture. Like the pendulum is swinging back. Like it went super woke ideology, and now it's coming back to more, conservative values, I guess. And like it's just insane. Like Kamala Harris ran with the slogan joy. Like that was her
Yeah,
slogan. Like how are you? There's people who can't eat, and you're
yeah.
saying don't let them take your joy. Like I was it's like what are you doing? And then think about like and then abortion. This is like the biggest thing that I'm hearing from every single person who does not like Trump. Abortion. He's banning abortion. Women are dying. First of all, he's not going to ban abortion.
It's going to give
Like
the states the rights.
exactly. And what that really does is give people more power to choose what they want.
Yeah.
And it's like you're talking about abortion. It's like imagine a mom with her two kids. She's barely can afford food. Like,
Yeah.
oh, no, like sorry you can't eat kids. I need an abortion. Like it's just not
It
what's
doesn't
important.
make sense. Yeah.
And
It's like they lost
actually,
the priority. Like,
yeah,
economics is where they lost the game.
I mean, I think also social issues, the transgender stuff, like most normal
It
Americans,
went too far.
it
Yeah.
went too far. Most normal Americans don't support like mutilating a child's genitalia before they're 18. Like it's just things that a normal, reasonable person would think is insane. And it's really an ideology. The woke ideology it's like a religion. Like
Yeah.
it serves as a religion to people. And that's why they get so fanatical about it. If you've seen like some of the
Yeah.
reactions to the election,
Bro.
they're insane, dude.
I
And
think
this,
I that's sorry, go ahead.
no, what were you gonna say?
That's why Elon Musk calls it the woke mind virus.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even his son is transgender, like, or daughter, I guess.
One of his daughters, yeah, she how do you say it? Transferred? Not
Transitioned.
transferred. Transitioned.
Yeah,
Transferred is crazy.
transferred genders,
Yeah.
cisgender, all that. It's to me, it's like, you know what? This whole thing has actually also made me really rethink abortion in a different way. Because,
Oh, what was your stance on abortion in the first place?
oh, I've been pro-abortion probably my whole life, very pro-abortion.
Oh,
Because, for various reasons that, like, I think that I was wanting that option to be available to women, like, and that's based on my conduct and the way I lived. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know
yeah.
what I mean? And I was like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't want to um risk a pregnancy at like a certain
Yeah, I knew
age.
exactly where this was going as soon as you said you are pro-abortion.
And it's like, okay, think of it, you're however old, you're in your early 20s. You have no, you're not ready for a child at all.
Yeah.
You could, it would be life changing and your life would kind of, I'm not going to say end, but like any dreams or hopes that you had for life would change. Like you would have to worry about something else completely, you know?
I think I'll have
And
to disagree with you on that one because I feel like if there's one thing that this generation, specifically the Gen Z generation, catastrophize or like, catastrophize is like, oh, if you get like if you're pregnant, your life is over. You're dead. Your dreams are gone. That's it.
okay.
But that's really, really, really not the case. If you look at the number of people who comment on YouTube comments saying that my mom was going to this place to abort me, but then something happened and I didn't get aborted, and now here I am doing this, doing my master's, doing this, doing that.
Hmm.
So I feel like sometimes this we forgot to appreciate selflessness. I think we are forgetting to appreciate selflessness. And I'm not blaming you, and I'm blaming the
No.
system because the system has everything to do with this and the culture in general. When I say the
Yeah.
system, the culture, the American culture is just promoting a more individualistic lifestyle, centered around the individual's, um, um, you know, um, happiness and
Yeah.
comfort and feelings. The focus became too much on the individual, and this
Hmm.
this concept of service, it
It's
became
disappeared.
it has disappeared. It became too um, um, capitalistic,
Oh, I agree.
capitalism, like on steroids.
Well,
It's like, if you really think about it, if you take yourself out of the picture, really, and here's where you get a lot of backlash. Like,
mhm,
take yourself out of the picture, just leave your comfort out, because sooner or later that's gonna happen. Life's gonna come and confront you and say, "Hey, you're gonna have to stop thinking about yourself, and you're gonna have to start thinking about other people." Life
mhm,
literally will have its way of saying that to your face, because you cannot live like that to the point where you're always prioritizing your own happiness and comfort and situation over the other person, and specifically in this case, a life. Do you
yeah,
know what I mean? So
which
that's what I
is,
mean. It's not the end of the world, like you said. It's
yeah,
also doesn't mean that your life is over. No, absolutely not. This is one thing that I think Gen Z gets wrong. It's like, it, we value our situation, which I really appreciate, and I see where people are coming from, and our comfort and our feelings over a life. There is a, like, we can't fathom the feeling that, oh my God, this is a new life. Yes,
it's,
it's gonna change the course of my life, probably forever, but
hmm
I am creating a new life. Yes, it is a mistake, but think about it, you are creating a life. No matter what it is, no matter what kind of situation that you're in, yes, the challenge might be greater than you ever imagined and sometimes unbearable,
yeah,
but it's not worth ending another life. That's this is, of course, modulo rape, incest, and what's the other one? Um, rape,
just
incest,
if there's a complication, mother's life.
mother's life. Of course,
Yeah,
that I agree. So in that sense, I guess I'm pro-abortion. I mean, pro-life. Is it pro-life? Pro-choice, I guess.
pro-choice.
But
But
other than that,
that's almost not even like pro-choice. It's not even really like a choice because those people don't have a choice in the matter,
correct.
you know?
Yeah, yeah,
I think you said that really well because as a Gen Z person, like, like some of my past, like
yeah.
I've been very self-centered and a lot of what a lot of the people around me, I see this like a type of selfishness that's prevalent and it's because of capitalism, primarily because of the capitalist system. And it's
hmm
like you can always make more money, you can always elevate your status, but at what cost? But
You can never bring that life back once you lose it,
and it's
you
like
know?
I think people see so much. They're just bombarded with content and like they see death throughout the world. You see on the news people dying every day. You see on X, you see videos of people dying. You hear all these stories, and then you're living so much on a social media. You're like living, I think most people, let me not say most, but there's like a
Yeah.
majority of the minority of people or whatever that like a good percentage of their day is spent on social media. So
Correct.
really,
And you lose that contact with reality. That's why I started, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
I listened to the James Hollis, the psychoanalyst podcast with Andrew,
Hmm.
and it's just I'm gonna listen to it a third time. There's just so much wisdom in that podcast. This is
You
one
should
of the
send it
things
to
that
me.
they took. I already did, and you already listened
Oh,
to it.
oh,
James
okay. Yeah,
Hollis, the
I
old
remember.
guy
Yeah,
that
yeah,
talks slowly. Listen to it, please. And
yeah.
this is one of the things he says. Like, uh, young people these days, if you take their phone away, anxiety goes through the roof. They can't sit still. They can't pay attention. They can't. If you take their phone away, their anxiety literally increase. There are people that they'll have start having anxiety when their phone's battery dies. You know,
Yeah.
it
No,
got to that level. So what that means is that you are no longer in control, obviously. So there is an external factor that is controlling the state of your brain, including your happiness and how you feel, and and your endocrine system, your hormones, basic. Because I think
yeah,
you know where
it's
this is going.
yeah,
Dopamine, you know.
yeah. Well, it's just I think we've talked about this uh, quite a bit. It's like the new
Yeah,
drug.
yeah.
Social media
And
is the
then
new
going
drug.
back, yeah, and then going back to the point where you said that,
Technology in general.
yeah, you said you spend your time most of the time on the phone, which I'm still currently struggling with, but thank God that I'm really like starting to see improvements and reducing my screen time.
Hmm.
And you can see that, you know, some aspects of your life improving. Like I can pay attention for a longer time. My attention span has improved. I can focus for a longer time. And then also I start since I stopped. See, this is the most important effect that I saw. Since I stopped taking input, external input, specifically from social media, the amount of time that I start reflecting on myself, my self-awareness improved. Uh,
Really.
you know, it's like, yeah, uh,
I
I
think,
I don't feel the urge to, you know, when you use social media for such a long time to the point where you hate yourself for actually doing it, and you
hmm
actually start realizing that you don't have enough time to do other things, and you
yeah,
start rushing, like a rushed life. My
yeah.
brother was telling me this from a book that he was reading. It's just such a rushed life. Oh no, no, no! I need to go to school. I don't have time for this. No, 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 no! I need to do this. I need to, and all you're doing will become you and your soul trying to respond to the demands of life. And you actually forget to center yourself and think for yourself. Critical thinking goes out the window
Hmm.
because you literally don't have time to actually sit down and think critically, understand things, bring about creative thoughts. Like there is no
Dude,
time for that because you are responding to the demands of life because you have brain
and
to
you're
actually
limited on
do that.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
but why is that? Like, if you actually look at, like, by the way, screen time speaks volumes about your, you know, I'm not specifically talking about you, kind of,
Yeah, yeah,
because I'm just talking in general about our
yeah.
people's time management, number one, and then also, yeah, yeah, time management, number one, and then also
Hmm.
like purpose, a sense of purpose. It's actually, you can actually, I believe, if there's a study that is done, you can correlate someone's sense of purpose with how much time they spend on social media, not just on
Really?
their phone, because you can, yeah. Again, like there's no data on this, but I'm just betting on it because I've seen it from
Okay.
personal experience. Whenever I lose sense of purpose in my life, that's what
Hmm.
happens usually. And and it's not just on your phone, specifically on social media, because I'm pretty sure that you can do very productive things on your while staying on your phone for a long time. You could be reading, you know,
Yeah,
even reading. I'm starting to prefer like physical books,
yeah. I
but
do
why
too
did
as
we
well.
get here? Sorry, I digress. Let's go back to what you said about people spending too much time online to the point where they lose contact with reality.
Well, it's not just, it's like they're losing. Well, we were talking about abortion and how um what I was the point I was trying to make is I think that people they don't value their own life as much, and they don't value and therefore they don't value life itself as much or others' lives. And
Yeah.
I think this is a cause. I think there can be some type of correlation to this. It's like, and it's interesting that you brought up this point because this is something I've been talking about lately. And actually, me and Jessica were talking about this the other week. We were talking about how important it is to remove inputs from your life and be in silence and think
Yes.
and just think. And it's like I think when you remove inputs, when you take less, when when you stop stimulating yourself and you're not inputting, because all day you're just
Pause.
getting stimulated like by different things.
Pause. I'm just kidding.
Okay, okay.
Continue.
You're being when you remove the input, like the social media input, I think your output grows.
Yes.
Like you would
But
think the more input, but I'm saying like social media input because you start to input different things into yourself.
correct. Yes.
Like
Yes.
just sitting in silence, meditating for 30 minutes, the effect that that has is honestly, I don't think most people understand how great of an effect that has.
Correct. That is so
And
true. That is so true.
you're right about the purpose because I've seen it in myself. When I start to spend too much time consuming media, I lose purpose. I lose a sense of where I'm going, what I need to do. And then when I
Yes.
remove that and I do, which is very hard, it's kind of like
Yeah.
stepping out in this day and age, it's kind of like stepping out of your comfort zone when you
Yes.
decide to
Even though it
do
shouldn't be that way, there are
exactly.
so many things that should push you to push yourself step out of the comfort zone.
And it's like, it's crazy how our society has conditioned us to where I can even say that not going on social media can be stepping outside of a comfort zone.
Yeah, that is so true
And
because
it's,
it adds another layer of challenge to your life because there's so many like challenges that you need to like overcome. It'll
yeah.
be this another layer of challenge.
So like you're really making it way harder for yourself by indulging in it or using it. And it's like
Yeah,
when you remove it, when you like the challenges that you think are so great, like way greater than you think you can even accomplish, they become more attainable when you get
yes,
past these like superficial challenges that you are just putting in front of yourself because of how society is right now, how social media
hmm
like how your dopamine system works and how social media affects it. And in
yeah,
effect, it's making the population more docile and it's making the population more poor and it's a dream killer really, it's killing your
so
dreams.
true.
And
I
it's
agree.
something,
This
yeah,
is
some it's yeah, totally. Me and Jessica were talking about this specific thing about how it's so important to spend time in silence, like
alone.
alone
Yes,
in
yes,
silence and just think about things. Because I'm surprised, I always am, how much like how much your creativity increases when you don't have an input, when you're just in silence, like the creativity that comes from who you are inside, when it's allowed to flourish and come out, it's like it's crazy how far that can take you, and how much it can change your life just by sitting for 30 minutes in silence, for example. That can really
yeah,
change the course of your week, and like what you decide to do for the rest of the week. Because if you're on social media, you're not planning, you're not thinking about the future, you're not,
yes,
you're being like, it's taking away the sense of self, I think, in a way.
yes. Defense of self. So this is why I also want you to listen to that podcast again, because I think they start the conversation with the self, this thing called self,
Hmm.
the psyche, the soul.
Yeah, the
Like
psyche, yeah.
it's yeah, it's
It's you
beautiful.
have to
But yeah,
nourish
you
it.
raised a very yeah, you raised an important point. And just to add to what you said, sitting in silence and just avoiding input is part of it. It's part of detaching yourself from that 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 pathology, you know?
Hmm.
Um, but you also have to
It is a
advance yourself.
pathology. It is a
Yes,
pathology. Like
you
totally.
pathologize it. Yeah. So what you have to do is, it's like, it's like, it's like, it's like, I see it like this. This is the analogy that I always like to use. It's like you're trying to run away from it, but you start by walking backwards, as in trying to get away from it, like trying to get away from it, right?
Hmm.
What you actually need to do next is turn around, book it, just
You've
make
told me
forward
this.
movement.
This
Yeah, you
has,
know,
this is
it's
one of the biggest, I feel like this, what you're saying is like one of the most important things that people can hear who are suffering from any sort of addiction or pathological behavior that
yeah,
is unhealthy for themselves. Is like
yeah,
what you're saying is stop trying to stop doing it, but change your
yeah,
direction. And
yes.
this
So
kind of connects
yes,
to the word, this connects to the Bible in a weird way. You know the word repent?
yeah.
Well, they say if you repent, you will go to heaven. Like if you and then I like met a dude on campus actually. This was last semester, my last semester at the University of Arizona before I graduated.
Hmm.
I just met
Hmm.
like a priest and I just started talking to him. And this was kind of when I like started to get back into my spirituality. And he was
I
asking me
think
some
this was on the
questions.
Sun Link, right?
No, this was on the way
Oh,
to the
okay.
gym. And so I just met him and I
Oh, okay.
decided, okay, I'll talk to him for a second. And I was like, I don't really
Hmm.
felt like I had, I didn't want to buy what he was selling, but I was like, I'll be nice and I'll talk to him. And he was like, what do you think repent means? Like, and I said, I think it means that you you basically say sorry for all the things that you have done. You've
Hmm.
exactly, you apologize for the things you've done, but that's not exactly what it means. It comes from a Greek or Latin word that means you change the direction you're facing.
Hmm.
It's not just apologizing and for your sins. It means you change your direction, you turn.
Yeah,
It's like physically turning a different way.
yeah.
And it's extremely hard to break out of like certain habits, like pathological habits. Some for some people more than others, but it's like you won't make a change by just stopping a behavior. You need to change
Correct.
the direction and the way that you live.
Correct. I did not know that actually. You know.
Yeah, it was very surprising because like you always hear repent for your sins, and then to really
Mm.
understand what that means is like a change. Let me look up exactly what it means. So it's I guess it has a couple meanings, but to change one's mind due to the consequences of past actions. And in
Hmm.
religion, as a more like surface, it's to decide to stop sinning and instead devote one's life to being a better person. So we're not talking about like religion necessarily. We're using it in the context of like pathological
Yeah.
behaviors, but it's like you're right. You're totally right. When you told me that, like instead of stopping where you're walking because that's the wrong way and just trying not to do it. Because if you just tell yourself, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. You're going to
Yeah.
do it. Like that's not going to work. You have to just turn a different direction and
Turn a
forget
different direction
about
and
it.
make advances in the positive direction, you know?
Yeah.
Start doing things already, because it's like you're in the negative and or you're along the negative side of the number line. You need to
Yeah.
get out of the negative and enter the positive. And that's where people start confusing improvement for progress or avoidance for advancement, you know. Just because you
Avoidance.
avoided something, just because
Yeah.
you're avoiding something doesn't mean that you're actually like have stopped pathologizing it and you have advanced to the next stage. You
No,
know what I mean?
I agree. That's
Yeah.
actually a good way to think. I haven't really thought
Yeah.
of it in that way. And yeah,
Like,
so back to back to where we digress from the abortion thing. So
mhm,
I was like at a certain age, I think a lot of people, I think most young people I know see
mhm.
uh having a child as kind of an end of life or an end of a type of life. And
I
I
would say
think,
I would like to qualify that statement by saying modern society,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, I
Um
agree.
Modern society specifically, it gets worse as you come to Gen Z. For Gen Z, it's inconceivable.
Each new
Literally, that's why you
generation.
see, yeah, that's why you see who's from generations. If you had to look at the generations that are still existing, that is whose offspring is still alive.
Hmm.
Um, which generation is the number one proponent of abortion? Gen Z. There's no question about it.
I would say so.
Well,
Yeah.
number one, of course, they are large in number, but if you normalize it to the number of people in a generation, Gen Z is pro-abortion because of I don't need to
The
belabor
audience.
the point,
Yeah.
but yeah, because of what you just said. It's
And
just like catastrophized, like
I know
how? It's over. It's done. What about me? Me? What
it's,
about my life? What about my feelings? Like,
yeah,
you know?
it's all about
It's like,
people are so, especially Gen Z. And I don't know if this is a failure of the parents or
yeah.
is this a failure of society as a whole? Like, or not even a failure of society. Let me rephrase that. Is this a failure of the parents, or is this a cause of big corporations and big tech and social media and capitalism?
I um Here's what I think it is. I don't think it's none of this. I think the reason is, again, this. Okay, let me just tell you what I think. I think
Yeah.
it's because of the increasing trend of people turning away from God. That's like, if you actually track it, it goes back to people turning away from God.
You
Because
think so?
literally, in my opinion, yeah, Christianity, as even you saw from today's Bible study, from any religion has probably like one of the highest moral standards, which is like very difficult to keep up to. You
Yeah,
know, if you look at some of the teachings of Jesus, it's like sometimes you ask, like, how in this day and age can you behave like this?
I
Is
know.
this even possible? You know?
It's
And the
extremely
further away
challenging.
you go, it's extremely challenging, you know? But as you try to, as our sense of urgency or our sense of, attention to the word of God
Hmm.
decreases, in other words, as we start turning away from God more and more, the level of pathologizing bad behaviors increases.
I have a,
things that we thought are not acceptable at all a
mhm,
decade, 2 decades ago start becoming acceptable
it
if you
is.
look at it.
And this is like how Rome fell.
Great point.
Exactly. Like it's like the
Yeah.
morals, the more when the morals get bad, that's the sign of a falling empire.
Yes.
That's when the empire
Yes.
collapses. And I have this
That's
argument,
uh-huh.
I have this specific argument with young people around my age all the time. Actually, not just people around my age, but all people. One of the opinions I've formed is that a lot of people say you don't need religion to be a good person. You like you can just be a good person. You don't have to have a religion to be a good person. And then
Hmm.
I say, okay, so who teaches you to be a good person? And then they say, okay, people are born good. And that's debatable. That's debatable. You know, you could some people maybe they're born good. Some people are definitely born bad or they grow up. There's a small percentage of people who I think are born evil, you know. But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is our civilization, our society, people don't realize this, but our entire society, Western civilization, is built on the foundation of Christianity and the morals of Christianity. That's what has guided and allowed society to flourish and prosper to this point. You might say we're not flourishing and prospering, but compared to every other civilization in history, we are. You know, we're doing the best. And that is because, first of all, the law of laws came from religion, from Christianity
Hmm.
in Western society. The founding
Yeah.
fathers, they're influenced by Christianity. They believed in the freedom of religion, but still, they carried over the moral principles from Christianity when they set the country up. So, with capitalism, it's grown to an extreme point. And like this, the free market economy, the being able to innovate, the way to innovate is you like our capitalist society takes advantage of people's desires to make money. So inherently, the more money you make, the more you're taking advantage of what people want. So
Yeah.
society has gone to a point where it is no longer by itself completely moral. It's the thing that is valued, like the number one value in capitalism is money. And money is like the root of all evil. So my
Yes.
my argument is just to people who say you don't need religion to be a good person is that okay, you when you remove religion, what do you have? You have a capitalist society that values money above all else. So to be
Correct.
able to remain a good person without any guideline to follow and you're just following the guidelines of society, it's inevitable that you can become a bad person or you're following a system that is not while society was based on Christianity, it has gone to a point where it's deviated
Yes.
into something that's more evil. It's not a good thing anymore. So if
Yes.
that's what you're using as your moral compass, it's going to steer you in the wrong direction. So it's like, do I
Mm.
expect any random person? You can't expect an individual to just first somehow create these moral values out of thin air and
Yes.
just have a God like you can't just you're not Jesus. People are not Jesus. You're not Buddha. You don't have most people don't have this internal sense of strong morals that is correct. It comes from somewhere. What you believe comes from something you learn. In my opinion, that's what I believe. I
Okay.
think everything you
Hmm.
believe comes from an external source. So what that source is really matters. And I totally agree that it's the the farther that we're straying from good moral um, text, I guess. Good, like having
Hmm.
having a text or a guideline that is truly moral. The farther we stray from that, the more people lose it, the more society is going in the wrong direction. And
Yeah.
I argue with people all the time about this. It's like you say that, you know, you can just be a good person. But no, you were taught by your parents to be a good person. They were taught by their parents who were in a society where these things were taught. It's like it did not come from nowhere that you are a good person. You were taught that way.
Yeah.
And a big part of that, I'm gonna, I'm not gonna say it's 100% just Christianity. I just don't want to make the claim, but
Yeah.
it's like it comes from that, it comes from Christianity. Like the moral values that have carried society up until this point are based on that. They're based on religious texts, whether like if you're in a different place, it's another religious text. But in general, most religions, I think, they have a very similar moral guideline. It's not, some are
Yeah.
different. They're all different in their own ways, but they're closer to the same than, just following how society is now. Because now there's a new religion, and that's like the woke religion. And that's a religion that
Yeah.
was birthed out of capitalism. Like that is
Yeah.
coming straight from capitalism and from greed and from a society that's like we were saying earlier,
Right.
that's about prioritizing the individual.
Yeah.
And it's grown and developed into its own ideology and religion that a huge majority of people I know my age are unknowingly following. Like people don't even know
Yeah.
that they're a part of this, but they are. And I can see it and I see the detriment in people's lives. Like I think the rates of depression and anxiety have just been like a straight line if you look at the graph. Like
Yeah.
as society has gone more modern, it's just people are not as happy. They're more anxious. People are having kids later, they're buying homes later. Obviously, this is not totally in the control of the individual, it's society, but it's trending in a certain direction. That's,
Yeah.
there needs to be an anchor, you know, like a
Yeah.
solid anchor. And I think that's starting to disappear. And like with my peers, I noticed that their values are weak and they don't, like, not all of them. Let me I noticed some though that their values are weak and they're bringing their quality of life down, you know. And it's
Yeah.
like simple
Yeah.
things that should be easy and simple, and they're just harder to do for Gen Z especially. Like it's
Yeah.
harder to be fulfilled in life these days. Like,
Correct.
and
Correct.
it's
Because too much
crazy.
indulgence, the science also tells us that even if like you don't want to refer the Bible regarding this,
Hmm.
science is pretty clear on it. Yeah, the indulgence part also has stuff to do. So it's a lot of factors like individualistic lifestyle, overindulgence in things that bring us instant gratitude and pleasure,
Hmm.
but you know, repelling or ignoring things that can uh, uh, bring us sustainable and long-lasting um, uh, pleasure and peace, such as working hard,
Hmm.
keeping your brain and body fit and healthy. It's yeah,
And
it's
this brings me back to your point about selflessness, and I'm finally gonna explain how my stance on abortion has shifted. This has been a big shift for me. So I told you how I used to feel about it. And, I was like completely pro-choice. If I got a girl pregnant, I would want her to get an abortion before, you
yeah,
know? And now I'm moving into a space where I think you know what, maybe society should not encourage abortion because the effect of them, if we stop encouraging it, maybe people will be a little more careful about who they have sex with or their actions. They'll be
Use
more
protection,
thoughtful.
even though it's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, just be a lot more thoughtful about what they're doing. And people
Yeah.
like for sex, like for example, I think it is a very spiritual and like sacred, important thing. That's like a very, it's a tenet of like, for example, marriage, but it's a tenet of relationships that without like the sacredness of it is going away. And I think that has negative
Yeah.
effects on an individual's mental health. So like I'm starting to see it as more sacred and more of a special, like a way more special thing that than I used to see it as, you know? And then so now I'm thinking maybe society, the people decide you can't get abortions, maybe that will have some positive effects in society because
Hmm.
it's going to be like a big change and it will take time, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm split on it because I'm digressing a bit, but I watched a book or I watched a movie. It's based on a book called Freakonomics, and it talks
Mm-hmm.
about LA or it talks about New York, I think in the 80s, the epidemic. So there's a huge crack epidemic. Crime was skyrocketing in the 80s in New York. They use this as an example. And that was,
Hmm.
I think, I'm not 100% sure. I think when was Roe v. Wade passed?
Roe v.
Okay,
Wade. Remind me
1973,
about the.
I think. Roe v. Wade basically said that anyone can get an abortion.
Uh.
Um, so that was in 1973. So yeah, I guess this was before they legalized abortion. They're having an incredible problem with crime in New York. Like it was, they used this specific place as an example, and it was getting
Yeah.
horrible. It was getting extreme. And then as soon as abortion was passed, you saw the crime rate start to drop because people weren't having
Oh.
unwanted kids. And what happened would people would get pregnant, the dad would leave, and then this kid would turn into a criminal. So if you look at, they did like a economic analysis, and so as soon as abortion became legal, the crime rate dropped so dramatically. And then,
Uh-huh.
but that has, you know, in economics, there's
But
more than
what?
one
So again,
factor.
you,
There's
yeah. So
more
I
than
was
one
gonna
factor.
ask you.
So I'm just saying like that's why I think it's right to give the states the choice whether they want to do it or not, whether they want to
I
legalize it or
see.
not. Personally,
Mm,
I'm starting to shift away from it. I see how in certain and in that's also it becomes indicative of other societal problems. For example, there's a lack of fathers in the Black community. That community has its own separate issues that are
mhm.
causing this problem to be there. It's not just like abortion's kind of like a quick fix for a bigger problem in that society. So yeah, maybe if there's less kids being born that aren't wanted, there'll be less crime, but that doesn't
Yeah.
remove the original problem of why there's unwanted kids being born. But in general, in
Yeah.
a perfect world, if you don't support abortion, it's illegal. You would expect people to behave differently, you
Yeah.
know, and be more thoughtful about it. And so I've recently thought, I've started to like try to transition into a more selfless way of living because if you're always thinking about yourself, the weight of the world becomes so heavy on you. Everything's you,
Correct.
everything's up to you. But then once you start to just, okay, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the people around me. I
Yeah.
feel as though life becomes way easier. It becomes way more
Yeah.
fulfilling and like it's just easier to live. Like life is hard, like you said. We all suffer, you know. It alleviates the suffering
Yeah,
when you become
yeah.
selfless. And so I've just recently and just I think it's partially because of the election and how big of an issue it's been. Like I've just recently kind of changed my stance on the way I feel about abortion a little bit. Like I think okay, if other people want to get it, it's legal. That's fine. I like I still have liberal views in the sense that people should have choices about what they do individually. They should have
Mm-hmm.
freedom. But I'm starting to think personally for me, that is not something that I would personally do. That's not a choice I might make in my own life now. And
Yeah,
it's like kind of a lot to wrap my head around, and I'm not even 100% there, but it's starting to come. Like I'm starting to see the things I'm starting to value in life are changing a lot as I've gotten older, and especially as I've, you know, since I had a spiritual experience with ayahuasca, and I've seen how it's changed and affected my life in a positive way. And I've put more emphasis on spirituality, and it's something that I want to practice more. That's started to change the things that I value in life. But it's always a
yeah,
constant battle, you know. I'm always like it's not easy, especially in the day and age we live in.
yeah. No, yeah, you're right. I completely agree.
Yeah, it's
And
wild.
it's not an easy lesson that I learned as well, because when you said that you started realizing that you're like you're living like a kind of this selfish life, that's a
Hmm.
very important self-reflection that a lot of people um, uh, fail to make and thus perpetuate throughout their life until it starts becoming a problem later in life to
Yeah,
the point where
like
it actually becomes difficult to revert.
or
It's
like you
really
said, or like you said, till life makes you. You know, you mentioned earlier.
yes, yes. I James Hollis says it like this. Can I play in a snippet from that?
Yes, yes, go for it.
I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to find it, but let me search for it first.
You should play it out loud, like take your headphones off and play it when you play it, so the audio can
Okay,
get picked up.
okay.
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting, um, just lately. And like I started seeing this girl too, and she's had a big impact on the way I look at things.
Give me a second
Um,
here.
yeah, I'm just filling the silence, kind of. Mm. Dude, it's been a great discussion so far, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Um, where
Can you
she
find it?
puts there was a transcription here.
Who is it?
Trans okay, show transcript. Nice. Um, it's James Hollis. Give me a second. I found it. I just need to open it. Hmm.
Mm-mm-mm.
Okay,
You
I
find
found
it?
it.
Okay.
So you said you want me to disconnect,
Yeah.
and then you also want me to share the screen. Is that right? Can you let me share my screen?
Yeah. Okay, you can.
Among young people, you take away their cell phone in the middle of the 19th century. Think about the Kierkegaard, the Danish theologian in Copenhagen in the 19th
Can you
century.
hear the audio?
Yeah.
Søren Kierkegaard, the Danish theologian in Copenhagen in the 19th century, talked about a man who was shocked to find his name in the obituary column, and he hadn't realized he died because he hadn't realized that he was here in the first place. Now, this is Kierkegaard
Wow.
talking in the middle of the 19th century. Think about the ramping up of the stimuli around us, the steady drum. Among young people, you take away their cell phone, and they experience enormous anxiety because this is their link to the world, and yet it's constantly making demands upon them. So again, underneath all of this is we have an appointment with our own souls. And the question is, are you going to show up for the appointment?
Wow. That is a
I
good, that is
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
I thought I had, but my psyche thought otherwise. So it was in the midst of a serious depression that I began showing up. And it was a difficult process, but ultimately proved to be, I think, transformative.
I certainly agree that
wow. That is, that hits the nail on the head with like, you know, when you're like, people are putting, how do I say this? People are avoiding showing up to their own life and their soul through
Yes.
these pathological behaviors that we were talking about.
Yes.
It's like procrastinating life, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it leads to a very, what's the word? Unfulfilled and unhappy life, in my opinion. Are you going to show another clip?
Yeah. Just another motivational one. Because
Okay.
it just, yeah.
But that's the task then, is the recovery of a sense of self and purpose that's independent of what happened to oneself.
it's almost as if one needs to really understand their own story, but then be able to depart from that story.
Yeah, that's why I said one has to have a larger story than what happened to you, right? One has to have a larger story than the story that one's culture gives you or your family of origin gives you. What is that story? That's why I said my instructions and my models were to stay home and stay safe. Something in me hungered, and I honor my teachers to this day. I enter a local librarian who showed me any book. She recognized this kid's a reader, so she said to me, "You don't have to stay in the children's section. You can go anywhere you want in the library," which I thought was like having a lot of candy. I enjoyed that. And as a child, I devoured the biographies of famous people because I think I was looking for clues about how do you live a larger life. I couldn't have languaged that. It was just some deep urge within. How do you live this life in a way that's more satisfying? And I was privileged to have some people there, notably teachers and a librarian, who gave permission to that and supported that. And I'm grateful to them. So I think it probably would have happened anyway, but much later in life. But I look back and I realized there was something there that wanted to go, as I said, to see where the airplanes went, what the ocean looked like, what it meant to live in a foreign country, what it meant to learn a foreign language. All of those things.
It's almost as if one needs to really understand their own story, but then be able to.
Than the story that one's culture gives you or your family of origin gives you. What is that story? That's why I said my instructions and my models were to stay home and stay safe. something in me hungered, and I honor my teachers to this day. I honor a local librarian who
Pause
showed
it.
me what she said. She recognized this kid's a
Just find the part that you want to show. I don't want to like put too
Yeah,
much
that's
audio.
yeah. That's what I'm looking for.
to stop and say, all right, now where are you being blocked today by convention or your old fears or your inhibitions or whatever? Because there's always a summons to show up. In fact, in one of the books, I said my motto, which I think about every morning, is very simple: shut up, suit up, show up. Now I'm speaking to myself when I say this. Shut up means stop whining. You know, there are people who don't have food today. There are people whose children are being killed today. There are people who don't have a roof over their. You have tons of things. Shut up. Don't whine. Speaking to myself. Suit up means prepare. Do your homework. Don't expect life just to present it to you. You have to go out and work hard at something. Show up meaning not show off, but just do the best you can. Step into life, you know, sooner or later, life knocks us down. Death is the great democracy, but you're here to live it as best you can.
So that's the one
Wow,
I'm looking. Shut up, suit up, and show up.
dude,
I
that's
think struck a chord
everyone should hear that, I
so
think.
much. Yeah.
Like that is so it really simplifies life. Makes it much easier, you
Yeah.
know.